Welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Show, where we bring in experts to talk about healthy lifestyle tips, tricks, and techniques. I'm your host, Bonnie, and today we have another amazing episode for you, and our guest is PJ Jonas, a mother of 8 beautiful children, and has her own business called the Goat Milk Stuff, which she has developed with her kids and her family while they were homeschooling. So I am so excited to welcome her on the show today. Welcome, PJ, to the Healthy Lifestyle Show. It's an absolute wonderful to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad and excited to talk about homeschooling because I haven't really had any experience about it much. But could you start with maybe introducing yourself and sharing a bit about your healthy lifestyle journey?
Absolutely. So my name is PJ. I am a mother of 8 children. I had them all one at a time. There's no multiples. They're all my biological children. I have been married to my husband for 22 years, and we're currently living in Indiana, which was actually a piece of our healthy lifestyle. We'd been living in New Jersey, and I really didn't have the room that I wanted to be able to have the healthy lifestyle I wanted. So it all kind of really came together when we moved out here to Indiana about 13 years ago.
Wow, that's exciting. So you live on, you must live on a farm or something with it's a big family, right?
Yeah, we do. So I when we moved out to Indiana, we purchased just a 3-acre property. It wasn't quite what I had in mind, but it was what was available and what we could afford at the time. And so I really just started making use of the property to the best of my ability. And so I got all sorts of animals. I had chickens for the healthy eggs. I got goats for the healthy raw milk. I tried a cow for a little while, but I wasn't really a big fan of the cow. So she only lasted a couple of months and then she moved on. And we had massive gardens. So there were a couple of years there where we really grew almost all of our own food. You know, I would buy things like wheat and, sugar and things like that. But most of it, we took care of ourselves.
Wow, that is beautiful and a lot of work, I'm sure. I mean, I've started my first garden this summer, so I know the small amount of time and that it takes to tend a garden. But
it really is a lifestyle. I love being out in my garden. The children will help with it. My husband will help with it, but I'm the one who just walks out there, and it's such a stress relief for me to just, pick an area and pick weeds. Like, oh, look what I did. There's no more weeds here right now. So that's very helpful.
It feels good, and it's nice to be out in nature and grounded and get some sun as well.
Absolutely.
So, why did you choose to homeschool your children?
I had a lot of experience with the public education system. My husband was a public school teacher. My mom was. My dad was. My husband's mom was. So
Wow.
in our family, I spent about 15 years altogether tutoring. And so the way the system is set up, it's really set up kind of against the teachers in many ways. A lot of them, it's not the teacher's fault. They do the best they can within the system they're working in. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to be able to teach my children to their individual strengths and weaknesses. And let them learn at their own pace, because some of them are very fast learners, some of them are slower learners. But when they're passionate about something, I can really use that curiosity and that passion to teach them at what's going to further them in their life, and not just a set curriculum.
Yeah, because it's so true. So many kids learn at different rates. I mean, I have a twin sister, and she ended up getting tutoring at some point, and I didn't. And it's just interesting to see how that kind of plays out, especially in like a public system where you could get bullied for that.
Well, and what most people don't realize is that in order to be able to learn to read, you have to have certain synapses in your brain close. And until those synapses close, you're physically unable to learn to read. And if you look at the bell curve of the age at which children have those synapses closed, the average age is 6. But that means there's a whole, other half that they're physically not able to learn to read yet. And those children in the public school situation, if they don't learn to read with their classroom, they tend to fall further and further behind as they get older. It's very difficult for them to catch up in that kind of situation.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then especially if they're getting like with the traditional grading system, lower grades because their learning or their brain hasn't fully developed yet, then that also has something to do with their confidence ability as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it's really, kind of a self-fulfilling system. Once they start to have difficulty, they start to think of themselves as not being able to learn, and that just kind of gets reinforced. So homeschooling really takes a lot of that out, and that you're really there's not the comparisons. You don't need to grade because you're not comparing them to other students. You're really just, as your own child what they're learning and what they're not, where their strengths are and where they need more work. So it's just a lot more personalized.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I was just going to ask about like the grading system and how you guys work on that, but that makes sense. So thanks for covering that. If somebody wanted to start homeschooling their children, are there certain regulations that they need to abide by or that they should know about the homeschooling institution?
Yeah, so homeschooling is legal on the federal level, but it's regulated on a state-by-state level. So what I recommend people do is go to a website. It's called the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And so the website is just the abbreviations, hslda.org. And that is a great free resource for people who are looking for their state rules and what's required. And then you can join HSLDA, and if you ever have any difficulties, any questions, they will represent you and help you to get through those problems. So for a lot of people starting out who are a little nervous about it, it can be kind of a good safety net for them.
Yeah. What were some of your challenges like? Because I'm sure when you first started homeschooling your first and second child, what were some challenges that you experienced doing that?
I loved it from the very beginning. I never really struggled with anything, but because I had a very different view of what education would be. I wasn't trying to give them the typical public school education. I wanted my children to have real world knowledge and real world ability to be able to, to do things. And back in 2008, we actually started a business because I wanted the children to be able to understand what it took to run a business and be able to have those skills so that they didn't, if they wanted to go out and work for somebody someday, they could totally do that because they'd be great employees. But if they didn't, they had the confidence and the entrepreneurial mindset to be able to start something on their own or just continue working in the goat milk stuff business we created.
Yeah, because having like an actual example of doing kind of problem solving is important when you can be kind of hands-on, hey?
You really do. You really need to learn as children what it means to fail and how you pick yourself up from that and move on. I think a lot of children are missing that. One of the things that I made sure that they were able to do was understand sales, right?
Yeah.
Because so many people don't know how to sell, and you're always selling something throughout your life, even if it's just yourself in a job interview. I mean, you're always selling something. And so to be able to kind of handle that rejection and understand that just because people are saying no to whatever it is you're trying to sell doesn't affect who you are, that's very valuable for everybody to learn, especially children. If you can learn it young, it's even more helpful.
Totally. I mean, some adults still don't even know that lesson yet.
No, they really don't. It's very sad. It should have been taught a long time ago.
Totally. So how have you noticed like some children are interested in different things? Like how do you keep them as individuals in their learning curve compared to like as in like a public school, how they do like group activities and work like that?
So because we have the business and all of my children work in the business, they all get salaries, they all get paid their own taxes. So there's a lot of education that just comes from that, just being able to pay your own taxes, understanding, how that all works, how to budget, how to do all of that. So they can all kind of get that at the same time. I mean, they'll pick and choose different lessons from that.
Mm-hmm.
But because everybody does a different job at Goat Milk Stuff, there are jobs obviously that everybody just needs to do because they just need to get done.
Right.
But I put them in the positions that are their natural strengths. So I have some people who work out, some children who work out with the goats because that's what they want to do. They're not, they tend to be a little more introverted. They tend to be a little more hands-on. And so that's a really good role for them. And then I have my children who work in our farm stores and speak with customers all day long. So, you have to remember that it's important to, to not just ignore their weaknesses, but I think it's more important to build on their strengths than it is to try to help them overcome their weaknesses, if that makes sense. We all have weaknesses. We all have things that we're not that great on, and you can't ignore them completely. But if you give the children the skills where they're naturally gifted, those weaknesses tend not to matter nearly as much.
Mm-hmm. And then they know what they love to do, and then they'll inspire more and cultivate more passion towards that, right?
That's the plan. Right now, my kids they're 10 to 20. My oldest just got engaged, so she's getting married in a couple months. And right now, everybody says they still want to work Goat Milk Stuff for the rest of their lives. So, I think that's a great thing. I think there's a couple of them I think would be benefited by getting an outside job because I think they would understand how well they have it here. How have that grass is always greener kind of mentality.
Totally, yeah.
And so I think that they would be benefited by that. But I think the fact that, that's what they want to do. And, they've been exposed to lots of other stuff. It's not like this is all that they know.
Right.
That it shows that this education and the way we've raised them is really working to kind of, satisfy their individual needs and desires and what they're meant to do when they get older.
Yeah, I think that's very beautiful. And especially because like in the public system, we often get taught things and kind of forced to learn things that we're not even interested in. Like personally, I was never interested in social studies. So consequently, I did not achieve as high grades as other students in a sense. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and one thing most people don't realize is, we give them this broad-based education, but colleges are actually looking for students that are really deep in one subject matter, right? It's, there's the general education is good. I mean, people should be exposed to different ideas and different topics, but it's, when you go out and you get a job or work in a field or whatnot, so many times you really focus and dig down deep into one area. And so that's something that's much easier to do in a homeschool environment.
Yeah, to have that ability to specialize in a certain skill set, for sure. So so you probably don't run off like a certain curriculum like a normal school then, do you? Like, or do you have like a certain schedule that the day kind of typically runs as?
No, I really don't. I really work hard at integrating all aspects of our lives. So it's not, time for work, time for school, time for, chores, that kind of thing. Everything just really works together. And so I'm constantly evaluating my children to see what skills I need to help them develop. I tell people like one of the things that doesn't occur the easiest that I have to make the most effort at is their writing skills. My children are very good at public speaking, at expressing themselves verbally, but it's a lot more difficult to get it down in writing. So, they do things like they journal and they'll write letters to people and that sort of thing. But I'm making a little more effort at doing things like, having them write a blog post per se, where they have to, kind of follow a logical argument, which doesn't necessarily occur when you're speaking with someone. Speaking is a lot more give and take than it is when you're writing.
Right. Yeah. Writing's a bit more concrete and a bit more structured for sure. So, what is like the importance of becoming a lifelong learner to you?
Well, that's pretty foundational.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I didn't, half the stuff I do, I had no clue what I was doing, right? When I started goat milk soap or goat milk stuff, I didn't know how to make goat milk soap. I'd never made
Right.
soap before in my life, but I learned and figured out how.
Mm-hmm.
When it was time to start a business and hire an employee, I didn't know what was required. I didn't know the different legal entities or the accounting skills that I was going to need or the HR laws or any of that, but it's been a constant learning. And so I think that if you can, one of my biggest desires as a homeschooling parent is to, number one, teach my children how to learn, but to teach them to love to learn. Because if I can do those two, I don't have to teach them everything myself. They'll learn down the line what they need to know or what they want to know. And I won't have to worry that, there were any, quote, gaps in their education or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. That's so important because so often or not, like after high school, it just seems like, okay, I'm done high school. That's kind of like the end. I'm going to take a break off my learning and not learn. And I actually I'm reading this book, is 30 Days to Increase Your Vocabulary. And at the beginning, it said that on average, in the adult life, we actually only learn up to 25 new words a year, which is quite astonishing compared to like considering how many words are out there, and to increase our vocabulary, right?
Yeah, and reading is the best way to do that. I just a couple months ago finished the 700-page biography on Alexander Hamilton, and I had to look up so many words in that. I was like, oh my gosh, there's another one I don't know.
Yeah.
Some books are definitely more helpful with that, and if you take the time to read them. And then, of course, I've always found that it's not just a matter of reading it and looking it up. You have to like use it, or you just forget it. You're like, wait, I've heard that word, but I don't remember what it means.
And I don't know how to use it in a sentence.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now myself, which is cool. Yeah. So how does like a child progress through from elementary, junior high levels to high school in the homeschooling type of environment?
Again, every homeschool is unique and different, and the state laws are different. What I do is I have my children start taking college classes when they turn 16. So they just go to our local community college and they start taking basic classes there. And so once I feel they're, ready, and it's been different age for different kids. I'll be like, okay, you're done, you've graduated. You're good to go and do what you want to do now. So, and that, it gets them exposed. One of the things I've always said was, right now, like I mentioned before, they all want to work our business. And goat milk stuff is what they want to do. But if any of them ever down the line says, oh, I'd like to be a veterinarian, I want them to know that they don't have to be afraid of public school and that kind of education. So it's really works really well for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to have both sides and to know that one area is not right compared to the other. It's just what you chose to do in a way.
Well, exactly. I wanted them to learn the best that they could. And what's nice about doing, sending them to the community college as opposed to, the local high school is they're interacting with people of different ages. There's a lot of older people who come back and take the community college classes. And I really like that because I think it's much more of a real life experience than, sitting in a classroom of 20 to 30 kids your own age. That never happens once you're out of school. So
no, it definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And good experiences for the kids to get out and study in that way as well. So how do you educate yourself as well to kind of educate your children? Is there a different way that you have to, or is it just all through experience of what you've been learning as well?
Well, I tend to get passionate about different topics and kind of throw myself all into them. And so I'm always teaching the children what I'm learning, and we kind of go down that road a lot. But like I said, that they really get their own interests and their own passions. My oldest, who's now 20, she wants to be a writer, and started writing when she was about 12, 13. And then she, all on her own, got herself involved, and I'd never heard of this before. It's called beta reading, which is not proofreading, but it's reading the book for kind of like she reads it and this is okay. Well, I don't think the character acted true to himself here, or and we'll do some proofreading, but it's more like a big picture kind of feedback. And she did that all on her own, and she's gotten involved in the writer community, and she's doing conferences and whatnot. So while I teach her some of the stuff that I'm interested in, that's something that she's interested, that she's just followed on her own from really heavily from the time she was probably about 15 years old.
That's really cool. I've never heard of that either. Wow.
It was new to me.
So do you kind of find that since from homeschooling that your kids are able to find more of what they're passionate about, instead of like coming out of high school and still not knowing like what to do with their life, in a sense?
We really do. I think that is, you just nailed one of the biggest strengths of homeschooling, is that, a lot of people just kind of treat college as grades 13 through 16 and don't go in understanding themselves very well.
Right.
So, and I think, a big hot topic right now is this amount of student loan debt and all of that. And how these kids are kind of, getting bogged down. Yeah. And it's bad enough if you know what you want to do and get all that student loan debt, but to just go in when you really don't have a clue, I think that really puts our young people at a disadvantage. And so I think it's really important, it's a lot easier if you're homeschooling, but even if you're not, to kind of say, all right, my teachers aren't going to figure this out for my child. I have to really help them kind of narrow this down, and what can I do to get them involved with people in some potential areas that might actually, be a really good fit for them. And the other part is to rule out the stuff that would be a bad fit. I tell people all the time, because we get, I do a lot of kind of mentoring, and, I'll have these young men come to me and they'll say, oh, I want to be a police officer. And I hear this all the time. And I'll be like, oh, well, that's cool. And I'll just kind of ignore that for a while. And I'll turn the question around to whether they want a family. And they're like, oh yeah, I want a family. I want kids. I want, and I was like, okay, well, let's go back to police work now. How is that going to, interact with these goals of having a family? Because that's very difficult on a wife and children. Do you think that's going to have an impact? And so, and sometimes it's definitely want to do, and they that's where they go. And then other times they decide, no, that really doesn't fit with their long-term picture of what they want. They don't want their family to be afraid when they're gone and that sort of thing. So, you can have that role no matter what age, what role you play in a young person's life. Yeah.
And it's so important to have that bigger picture, I guess, of the long term of how it's going to play out. Or so often, like you said, there's lots of students getting student debt, and then they aren't even feeling aligned with what they're studying, and basically kind of not wasting years, because you're always learning something from the experience, but kind of having to revamp your whole idea of what you want, which can be difficult.
It's really hard, and that's what I am a big fan of community college, especially for those children who really don't know. I mean, it's so much more inexpensive. They can try different things. If they try a class, they don't really like it. They're not committed to it forever, and they can work during that time and start to really kind of figure out what they want, because without having that work experience and knowing how you feel about work, that makes it hard to choose a career.
Totally. I mean, sometimes I don't even know what I want to do.
And I think we all feel that way.
But that's because we're always learning, right?
Exactly.
We don't have to, that's the thing, we don't have to do one thing for our whole entire life, right?
Exactly. I've made quite a few career. I went to college. I became a systems engineer. Worked in 3 years in corporate America, and now I'm a goat farmer. Making and selling goat milk soap worldwide. So you never know what twists and turns life's going to take.
Totally, right. And that's why you got to go with the flow and just feel it out. So what What do you think that most parents fear about the idea of homeschooling children or their children?
I think the predominant fear is that we're going to fail our children, that we're not going to provide them what they need, that we're going to make a mistake, that they're going to be permanently for the rest of their lives at a disadvantage because we homeschooled them. And what I always encourage moms and dads with is, okay, what you have to realize is, if you seriously think about how much of the stuff you learned in public school, in your schooling that you actually use today, it's minuscule, right? Those things. And, we don't live, now we have Google, right? We have calculators on our phones. It's a very, very different world that our children are growing up in. And it's those other skills that really determine how successful our children are. It's their work ethic, it's their problem solving, it's their communication, it's their attention to detail. Okay. And the best way to learn that is to spend time with your children, putting all of that into effect. I always encourage everybody, I know it sounds so crazy, but having a family business, and it doesn't have to be like the only thing you do like ours, goat milk stuff is all we do. But, even if it's just a little side business that you do, there are so many life skills that you learn. And as a family, there's so many tax advantages you have as doing that there's like no reason why every family shouldn't have something that they do on the side.
Wow, that makes so much sense. That's a cool, and why not get paid while teaching, right?
Exactly.
Instead of, well, I'm sure there's some expenses to homeschooling, but more expenses in public school, I would imagine. I'm not really aware.
That's been my experience. You can go out there and buy a full curriculum. You can spend a couple $100s a year. You can, what I've always found is new homeschool parents always spend way more than they need to or have to, because they're always trying to, they think there's a magic curriculum out there, and it's really not. I mean, I don't hardly spend anything. I spend more money taking my family to places and studying the history of the places, so we had a cross country meet down in Tennessee, and we went to the Hermitage, which is the home of Andrew Jackson. And so we went down there, and so there was, the fee to get in and take the tour and learn all of that. And you take advantage of those opportunities, and that's much better money spent than it is putting it into a curriculum, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's like a field trip, but way better because it can last for like a weekend or longer, but on your vacation or something, right? Yeah,
that's actually what we do. Whenever we head somewhere, we always leave a day early and make a stop somewhere on the way, somewhere we can learn. And it's so, one of the things that I've always encouraged my children, and sometimes some of them are more hesitant than others, is you need to push them to be the ones to ask the questions, right? Because some of our kids, they're so afraid to ask questions, and they'll just be quiet. And sometimes you have to really what I'll do is I'll kind of prep them, especially if I have a child that I know is going to already know, like, okay, this is your question. You have to ask, this question, because it just gives them something that they don't have to worry about it. They know that, and it's funny because some of them will wait to the very end. Some of them will go in and ask them right away.
Yeah, just get it over with.
Yep, exactly.
That's funny. That's good. Because I can imagine that there's maybe some, I don't know the word, but a lot of people feel that maybe homeschool kids are socially awkward, or socially the skills aren't there as well. How do you feel like raising homeschooled kids compared to the public school system?
Well, I think what I tell people is, that socially awkward homeschooler you've met, had they been in public school, that would have been the socially awkward public school kid,
Right.
More a function of the individual child and the individual family than it tends to be from the method, whether it's homeschooled or public schooled. But I think as a whole, most homeschoolers are out in the public and dealing with the real world more than public school children are.
Right.
So homeschoolers are out, talking to their mailman. They're out talking to the clerks at the grocery stores. They're out running into people, and having conversations, and they see, people of all ages. They, because you're dealing, I have 8 children, but most people don't have that many. So if you only have 2 or 3, you can say individually to your children, okay, look that person in the eye. I have my children pay for when we go out. They're the ones who pay for things, and they have to get the receipt and, and pay for it and all of that. And so they're getting all of those skills, and you have the time just in the course of your everyday life to just let them do those types of things. And it doesn't have to be this rigid teaching, kind of curriculum or schedule or whatever. So it's really easy if you just make any kind of effort at it.
Yeah, for sure. And that sounds like a lot more fun and a lot more realistic too. Because like you said, it's not every day or anywhere where you're going to be in a room with the people the same age as yourself, right?
It really is. A lot of people, they don't know how to treat younger children. They don't know how to treat old people, right? Elderly people are very neglected in our society. And so if you just make, my kids, they make me so proud because, this is something I trade them in when they're young, but if they see someone, an elderly person, like say we go food shopping and they see an elderly person coming, they'll go and they'll offer to push their cart for them and help them unload their groceries. They'll hold the door open for them. And they do all of that now totally without me prompting them at all. Now, there was a lot of years I did prompt them, but they've really gotten that lesson in that, you look for the people, you look for the mom who's, got the 2 toddlers and a baby carrier, and, you offer to help them. And so I think it enables them, when they're out and about, because oftentimes when, if you go out on a field trip as public school, you have to stay in your line, you have to follow the directions. When you're just your family, you can make those detours and you can be aware of other people and where the help is needed.
Yeah, that's so true. And very beneficial for their learning, I can imagine as well.
I think so. I think very
So have you had any times where you really had to motivate your children to complete certain tasks or to really work on something that was necessary, I guess, for their
Of course,
growth?
they're children. No child goes in and always does what's best for them.
Right.
You have to push that. You have to instill that. I have several children that are very, very self-controlled and self-disciplined and self-motivated. And then I have the ones who are much more, free thinkers and go where the wind blows. And so, it's definitely something that, and because we have goat milk stuff and we have a farm and we have dairy goats that need to be fed, my children know that, the goats get taken care of first. We don't eat dinner until the goats have all been milked. We had this past year, we had 149 baby goats born.
Whoa.
And it was crazy. And that's all in about a 6-week period. And so, you sacrifice your sleep. You sacrifice because you know that that's a life and death and it's important and you have to take care of those. And so being raised that way, while they can still be lazy, we can all still be lazy at times. There's just kind of a much more work ethic that helps them to do the right thing, even if they don't necessarily want to.
Yeah, especially when you are running a business like that, and the goats need tending for life or death. They're in labor or whatever. You got to help them out sometimes, I'm sure, right?
Yes, it's, always on the coldest night when you're sleeping. And
the middle of the night, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. We actually do round the clock barn shifts. We take turns because someone's always in the barn in case somebody needs help. So it's self-sacrifice, I think, is an important skill that we're generally lacking nowadays. That willingness to sacrifice your comfort, what you want for the benefit of, whether it's an animal, a person, something. And so that's something that we work really hard to instill in the children, that, there's something, there are things that are bigger than just what you want and your, and your free time. There's a place for that. There's a place for just, okay, I'm just going to relax and do nothing. And that's important too. But I think we tend to have it a little bit out of balance as an American society sometimes.
Yeah, totally. You gotta know when to take the time for yourself and recharge and refuel your body.
Exactly.
So do you have any oppositions of homeschooling, or like for somebody that's kind of on the fence and like wagering like the pros and cons of homeschooling that you could share with anybody?
I have always told people, I do not know, I've never yet met anyone who has regretted homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met a lot of people who homeschooled for a while and their circumstances changed and put them back in school afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Many who, start from the beginning and homeschool the whole way through. But I've never yet had anybody tell me they regretted their time homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something that even if all you get out of it is getting closer to your child because you spent that much more time with them, it's worth it. It's worth considering. You're not going to harm your kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have trouble. I tell the people, because I have a lot of people who want their children to go, to a 4-year college, and they're afraid that they're not going to be able to get them into a 4-year college. And the advice I give those people is to pick a couple schools that you think your child might attend and contact them now, even if your kid is in elementary school, junior high, and say, this is your college on our list. What do you require of homeschoolers?
Mm.
And having that, kind of backup in your head, okay, this is what they're going to need. I can do that. I know how to do that. And you can kind of be doing it all along. It's very comforting to know that not only can your child get into a really good public school or, public college, but that they're actually actively seeking homeschoolers in many cases, because homeschoolers have such a good success rate at colleges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's great to be proactive with the search so that, like you said, you know what you're looking for and you don't have to stress out about that if you're not hitting the requirements, right?
Well, and just things like as easy as, keeping up with the transcript as you go, as opposed to, getting to senior year and going, oh no, I got to put together a transcript of the past 4 years and not having any of it. So yeah, if that's your goal, it really makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, that's so cool. So I imagine having a homeschooling, it probably brings your family quite close together in relationships and just really having that nice family dynamic.
It's all I could have ever hoped for. I mean, I currently have 5 teenage boys, and I don't have any of the trouble that you hear about, with the rebellion. That's not to say they're not teenagers and they're not moody and hormone driven and all of that, but, we can talk because there's, when you send your child to the public school, there's so little time to talk. By the time they're off, you're back, your dinner, everything. Especially if they're doing sports, oh my goodness, that takes out so much more time. As homeschooling, you don't have to be on top of each other anymore, but you're there if you have the opportunity, and you, especially with teenagers, it's hard to catch them at a time when they want to talk. And so it's kind of a numbers game. And the more hours you're around them, the more time you have there when they really are ready to open up. And that's I'm so thankful for that extra time.
Yeah, I can imagine that's really one of the main benefits of homeschooling is being there for your child and allowing that connection to deepen.
Well, I hear a lot, oh, I could never homeschool my kid because we just don't get along. I get that all the time. We would just kill each other. And I kind of feel like those are the people who need to homeschool the most.
Right.
Because if you can't get along now, it's at some point you're going to have to get that relationship back.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're homeschooling and you don't take the, I am the teacher, I'm going to teach you everything kind of mentality, but okay, we're going to learn this together, or you're going to learn this by yourself and I'm just here to facilitate. Mm-hmm. It takes the confrontation out of things, and it just gives you more time to actually get to know and like your child. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people who during those teenage years, they struggle with that. And so I really think that those people who that's their fear, they need to figure out how to be able to do that even more than some others.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, family is what you got for life, right?
Well, exactly. I mentioned that, my oldest has just got engaged and they're getting married in a few months, wow. And she was talking about her she was trying to decide on her bridesmaids, and she was going back and forth, and and that was one of the things my husband said to her. He said, okay, in 5 years, half of those people you just mentioned, you won't even be talking to anymore, and family is always there.
Yeah, so pick your sister.
Yeah, that was actually a given. She's got her 2 sisters in there.
Oh, yay. That's going to be exciting for the family, I can imagine. Are the goats going to be there?
No, I'm pretty sure they both want to get away from the goats for a little while.
Hey, I was hoping you could share a little bit about your goat milk stuff business, just to share a little bit.
Oh, sure. So I had the kids in the bathtub one time, and I was letting them splash around, and I picked up the baby wash I'd always used, and for the first time I ever looked at the ingredients, I was really upset with the ingredients in there. I really didn't like all those chemicals and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to figure out how to make my own soap. Mm-hmm. And when I tried to look up some recipes, they all called for water. And I was like, forget water. I've got goat milk, right? Goat milk is so good. I'm going to put the goat milk in. And, my husband just kind of laughed at me. And so I made the soap, and I put it in our shower. And within a week of using it, his fingers stopped cracking and splitting.
Wow.
My husband. And that was a problem he'd had for years and years and years. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really good. I can, the children and we can do something with this. Mm-hmm. And so the kids and I, we just started making soap and selling it. We would do stuff like we would go to the grocery store, and I'd have one child in front talking to the person in front of us online about the soap, and one child in the back. And it was so great, because it was just everything I had wanted in their education. They were learning to talk to people. They were learning how to problem solve. They were learning shipping skills and customer service skills. And so it grew really rapidly. We actually were, we were actually on the Today Show, and that just kind of like blew the whole thing up. And what ended up happening was we found out that our goat milk soap, our purity soap, relieved eczema symptoms.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, and I had no idea. None of my children had eczema, and we got into these groups, and they just told everybody they knew that the soap, their purity soap, helped their eczema. And so within a year, my husband was actually on full time, and that's how fast it grew. And that was really, really scary, because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to run a business. We didn't know, we were raising 8 kids, had all these goats, making all this stuff. So it was really crazy.
So you're all learning together.
Well, that was exactly it. I would just put, okay, you figure this out. Okay, you figure that out. I'm going to work on this. I had to teach myself, because that was before they had all these nice, easy shopping cart systems, and I had to teach myself how to code to put up a website.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, the daughters would watch me as I learned the HTML and how to do it. And it was a huge learning experience, and we've grown dramatically. We actually moved off of our original farm. We now have a bigger farm in Scottsburg, Indiana. Mm-hmm. We're the first and only grade A goat dairy in the state of Indiana. So that is hugely exciting to us. Mm-hmm. And we ship our goat milk soaps around the world. So it's been everything. I tell people, being able to work with my children, work with my husband, help people with their skin issues, it's just like everything I ever could have asked for.
Yeah, it's like your dream life, and you're living it.
Exactly. That is exactly what it is.
Oh, that's so beautiful and inspiring for me to follow my passions, and, for other families, I'm sure, to, try out homeschooling. It's really exciting. So, PJ, we always like to leave our listeners with a little healthy lifestyle challenge that we can implement into our day. Do you have any tips or tricks that you can share with everyone?
One of the things, I have 2. The first one is sleep. Right? We are a chronically sleep-deprived country, and I just think it is the most important thing you can do for yourself, and the most important thing you can do for your children, to establish healthy sleep habits. Mm-hmm. That is just, to me, like the number one thing. And the other thing I wanted to mention, because obviously it's near and dear to my heart, is healthy skincare. But if that's something that your listeners are interested in, I can get them a free bar of our goat milk soap. All they need to do is go to our website, which is goatmilkstuff.com, and then go to goatmilkstuff.com/lifestyle soap. And lifestyle soap is all one word, and they can get the directions on how to get a free bar of goat milk soap, so they can take care of their skin in a natural, healthy way.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with everyone welcome. And healthy skin. I've been working on my own healthy skin this past while, well, my life, I guess. It's our biggest organ, and we don't pay as much attention to it as we should, right?
We really don't. People really don't understand how awful some of the stuff in everything they use on their skin is. It's a big one to change and, and improve.
Even just looking at lotions or sunscreen and what really is in there, right?
And down to everything from your toothpaste to your deodorant, it's everywhere. It's just all these chemicals that are just, what I tell people is, God gave us our liver so we could detoxify our bodies, right? Mm-hmm. So we have that ability, but we are so bombarded in our modern lifestyle with toxins everywhere that our livers are getting overwhelmed. And so the more you can do to just decrease that toxicity burden on your liver, the healthier you're going to be.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's true, right? Don't leave it up to just your liver to do all the work, right?
No, exactly.
We all got to put in the work together. Well, it sure has been a pleasure having you, PJ, on the Healthy Lifestyle Show. And I definitely learned a lot about homeschooling and the benefits of it. And I kind of wish I was schooled, but I love the way I was raised. So it is beautiful experiences everywhere.
Yeah, it is. And you can make the most of whatever it is, circumstances you find yourself in.
Totally. Awesome. And I will share that link with all the listeners out there so that they can find that easily on our blog to check out the soaps.
Sounds good. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A huge thanks for PJ for coming on the Healthy Lifestyle Show. I truly enjoyed our discussion today about homeschooling and the vast benefits of learning at home. Wow, so much to learn. Always continue learning, right? And the Healthy Lifestyle Challenge of the week. Get more sleep, a healthy sleep schedule, and healthy skin. Make sure you're nourishing your largest organ of your body. And as a gift from PJ, she has a free goat milk soap that you can get at goatmilkstuff.com/lifestyle soap. So be sure to check that out. And of course, remember to check out the Healthy Lifestyle Meals app that we've been sharing with you to help create healthy lifestyle meals for you and your family, all balanced on vitamins, minerals, and different health requirements to ensure that you are getting the essentials in your daily diet. So go to healthylifestylepodcast.com/trial for all that information there. And as always, stay healthy, stay active, and be happy.